Hi, everyone. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. I'm your host, Marisa B. Today, I'd like to welcome licensed nurse and board certified nurse coach, Kim Dunakey. Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for coming today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. The first big question I have is, first of all, I knew from your bio that you are a Reiki practitioner, and I know that you're a transformational wellness coach, but what the heck is a nurse coach? That sounded so fascinating to me. Can you explain a little bit about it, first of all?
So it's a wellness or a life coach that comes at it from a nursing perspective. So about 10 years ago, the nursing profession kind of looked at health and saw that things just aren't going well in the country. And they saw that coaching was a good answer. And they developed a board certification for health and wellness coaching. And so that is what a nurse coach is. So I went through the preparations and got my board certification.
Right. And of course, as I said, you were a licensed nurse for many years, right? At least what, 15? You've been
Yes.
doing this over 15 years as a nurse. And
Yeah,
so then
coming
you
up on
went on.
16.
Yeah. And then you went on to this nurse coaching. And I would assume that because I've heard from many people, they say that the medical system, it's broken and that it's in need of a lot of assistance. And so what, for example, would a nurse coach do? I mean, it's coming from a nursing viewpoint, but what exactly would you do? Is it different? Because you also are the transformational wellness coach. So you also have that background as well. Do you meld those together? Are they different? Can you explain a little?
So different nurse coaches do lots of different things. Some focus purely on like health coaching, diet, exercise, lifestyle. Some I'd like to look at more the whole person, mental, spiritual, and kind of bring everything together. Because I think if you're not looking at it from that perspective, you're not really going to get to the root cause. So many of our health issues begin up here in our mind. So that's the perspective I come from. But different nurse coaches do different things. But it's kind of like I look at it as life coaching with a nursing perspective. And I understand a lot of those physical ailments better because I've experienced caring for people with those physical ailments.
No, so right, exactly. You've had firsthand experience as a nurse with people that have
Yes.
these illnesses, whether they're acute or a one-time illness, but you have had that experience. And I'm assuming that the whole package, the body, mind, and spirit, because it's all inclusive and it touches on every aspect of an individual, the whole aspect, that um it offers more for them, more than just, quote unquote, the band-aid on whatever the ailment may be.
Yeah, I think it's so important to get down to the root causes. And so much, we carry so much of our old hurts and old traumas in our bodies. And if we can get down to those root causes and help move that energy through, we can actually begin the true healing process, whether that's from our things like anxiety, depression,
Mhm.
but also illness, actual illness. I've had one
Mhm.
patient, well, a client that came to me and she was just in chronic, horrible, terrible pain. But she'd had all the testing done and there were no answers. And it kind of felt like it was all anxiety driven. Through our work, we did a lot of chakra work, lots of guided meditations. She was able to get off all of her medications and just really, it was life changing for her. And it was such a blessing for me to be able to guide her through that. So,
And and I'm assume she was thrilled, because once you get to the root cause of what's going on, I mean, because who wants to walk around with pain all the time,
right.
physical
Well,
pain,
it was,
and coming from somewhere, that you don't even know, especially when you're hearing from all these diagnostic testing that there's nothing there or they can't find anything.
well, then you start to feel like, well, am I just crazy? And you're not crazy. The pain is real. It's just
Mhm.
manifesting physically what's going on emotionally. It has to get out somehow. So it's coming out through physical pain. So when you can get down to to the root cause and move that energy through, you can actually heal it.
And that's not to say that someone who doesn't have a physical illness, that something diagnostically has been seen, that this doesn't work either, because once again, we're dealing with the whole
Correct.
person. So moving that energy around, um, doesn't really harm, right, or hinder getting other kind of treatment
No, and I
with
like,
a medical doctor.
no, I firmly believe in, that things work together, integrative health, that if you are getting treatment from a doctor, you can still definitely benefit through having this energy work and other types of healing, and they can very much work together. I mean, making sure you're having your nutrition doing well, doing this energy work, getting, meditating, getting everything working well together. It's all going to help the person just get their full health better.
So now, because you are a nurse and we're the times that we're in, I mean, I was just having a conversation with a relative who was saying that they had gone to the supermarket and it was just ridiculously expensive, so much more than it had been um, only recently. And so when we deal with wellness and we're discussing diet with a client, I mean, how the very reality of what is seeps in, right? I mean, it sinks in. The reality is things are more expensive. How do you help someone navigate that situation? Because we know that healthy eating or healthy foods contribute to this all around wholeness. What is some kind of advice that you would give to someone? Like, how can they do that when we have to deal with these real things that are going on?
I would say just one, do the very best that you can, but also really simple foods can sometimes be the absolute best for you. Beans are really good for you, and they're still really reasonably priced. Get your canned and frozen vegetables, really good for you. We can keep it really simple and still have a lot of wellness there. It doesn't have to be all the supplements and all of the really expensive fancy things. Keep things simple and within a budget and have that wellness.
I'm so glad that you said that because recently I've been noticing that a lot of um, YouTube. I mean, there are other channels, other stations, other people talking about this, but I've been on YouTube and I've noticed that so many people are discussing how to live on a budget, how to prepare meals for families on budgets. And a lot of people, they are either vegetarian, vegan, so they're talking about this. But it's so funny that the other day I watched someone who used a can of beans, and it wasn't per se a can of beans, though she mentioned you can purchase that. She herself was buying the bag and soaking them overnight. She was making 3 meals in one day, 3 different meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with beans. And I thought about that. I said, that really it is nutritious. It is nutritious. She wasn't using anything packaged or prepared, and all of the ingredients that she was using with the beans were actually, to the best of her ability, wholesome and organic and so forth. And I thought about that and I was like, well, how do you really go around helping everyone to see that that can be done? Because it is one of the I guess pillars of wholeness, right? I mean, because eating well, taking care of yourself from that physical standpoint comes before all else, I would assume. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one of those, a building block, right? If you're not nourishing yourself properly, you're not going to be able to do any of the other things. It's kind of like that Maslow's triangle, right? You got to have
Yes.
shelter, and our body is our shelter for our soul and our emotional health. So we have
Yeah,
to
and
kind of take care of that.
yeah, you're so true. And then, I thought about it as like, well, you know what? This is like, that's stressful. So then you're, feeding a family, feeding yourself on a budget and what to eat and trying to eat healthy and knowing that you should be eating healthy and organic. And then that's so much stress if you can't or you don't know how. And I thought about that and I said, that's really crucial that people know that that
Mm-hmm.
can be done. Like you said, it's almost, the basics of what you can do on a budget to stay healthy. That's
Yes.
the one part, the one pillar that you're already working on. And then, of course, other things come into play afterwards because of that stress, because we do get stress from more than just being able to feed our family. Stress comes in from all avenues,
Yes. It's coming
unfortunately.
at us from everywhere right now. It feels
Yes.
like.
Yes, it does indeed. It does indeed. And it's quite frightening. It's quite frightening.
Can
Um,
be. Yes.
yes, because they're very real. I mean, I'm actually a psychologist. I have clients and, they come to me and they're fearful They're fearful of the unknown. They're fearful of a lot of the known as well, and where we're going from here. And so that can make a person ill. That all that fear that you carry with you, all that stress, that can very much make a person ill. I mean, I had a client on, and I had a guest on a long time ago, and we were speaking about the dis-ease that it really is, a dis-ease that we carry along with us, and we need to try to live these, in the moment lives, and these healthy lives, and it's difficult. And I'm sure that people slide back often because it's something that we have to work on. And how do you find that with your clients? Because, you're dealing with the three pillars, all the
Yes.
time. And I'm sure that they look at you as, well, she's a nurse. And so I'm sure that that medical background is something that they really lean on.
So I just like, first of all, we have to start every day. Like, okay, this is a new day and I have to start from today. I can't undo yesterday. I can only start from today. And just focus on what you can do today. And every day, our 100% is going to be different. Like, if you didn't get a lot of rest, then you're not going to be able to give as much. But then tomorrow you might be able to give more. So just honestly, just give as much as you can each day. Do your best. And I like to tell people, like, learn to look for joy in anywhere you can get it, because like the little glimmers, learn to focus on those little glimmers and bring that in, and really pay attention. If we can learn to start noticing and paying attention to the little joys, that's where we're going to find that true happiness in our lives. We can always, it's that reticular activation system in our brain where what you focus on is what you'll find more of. So if we can learn to focus on the joys and the happiness, we're going to find more of that. And that is what will bring more into your life, and I think that will go a long way towards.
It's ever evolving, right? It's ever evolving,
Yes.
isn't it? I mean, so I talked on a show recently and I was reviewing, and I never do that. I don't review what I've spoken about. I usually just go with it by the seat of my pants. So I was talking on a show and I happened to see it. And I said, oh my gosh, I look dreadful. I looked so tired because I was so tired. I said, oh my gosh, I look so tired. And then I thought I had to readjust myself because we all do this. I said, I want to look at the happy and the good and the important part. And the important part was that I was able to do it, and that I was able to have the capability of getting on there and speaking. And so I wanted to change the narrative, because otherwise I could have been walking around feeling dreadful for the whole week, continued on with the being tired and so forth. And I thought, I work with clients, but I myself also, I mean, I have people that I speak with. When you're becoming a psychologist, you have to speak to other psychologists too. And
Right.
with nursing, like, you're
Yep.
dealing with the experts in the medical field. And so, I mean, I still have people that I speak with, and I still have mentors, and I still deal with coaches myself. So I thought, I myself, even though I'm speaking with clients, I myself have to make sure I change the record as well, change the programming as well, because you're absolutely right. And you can't go back. Yesterday is done, and we can only go from today. And we're working on having 100% today, or as close to 100% for today as we can, right? Because it may not be 100%, and tomorrow's another day. So, but it happens to all of us, right? I mean, we're all in this together.
Yes. Yes. And if we focus too much on what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow, all it does is steal the joy from today.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to get caught in that cycle, to the ruminating on the past or the anxiety tomorrow. But the truth is, we don't know what any of that is going to bring. So all we can do is do the next best thing that we can do today and try to focus on that. So
That's absolutely true. And now, how do you work with clients? Do you work with people online? I know that we've all had to pivot because of the way the world had gone. Do you work with people online? Do you work with people in person as well?
I do mostly online. I am able to do it in person, but I do mostly through Zoom. I have both one-on-one where I also have a group program where I work with women to kind of go through the different archetypes the feminine archetypes, and we kind of go through one by one and see how we can kind of integrate them better and get to know ourselves better through the feminine archetypes. And it's been a wonderful experience to see the women and have the group experience, because then they realize, oh, I'm not as different. I'm not crazy. That's a universal experience. And I think seeing women come together is just such a wonderful thing to do. So,
and I always say this, originally I wasn't an advocate for online. I thought in person was the best because I don't want to date myself, but I've been doing this a long time because I'm a lot older than you are. And so I've been doing this a long time. And of course, it was always in person. We had no other way to do it. And then we had to go with telehealth because I have to follow the HIPAA rules. And so we had to have secured telehealth. And I wasn't sure it was going to work. But then I started seeing that I'm getting clients from all over the world. And there's these small parts of the planet where people have felt so alone because of where they're located, and maybe the size of the area. And so they, like you said, then they realize, what I'm feeling and what I'm going through, I'm not alone. And then I found that I changed again, to the thinking that this is really a wonderful tool, and it can be a wonderful tool because we're reaching so many people to help them and to connect with them, really, to hear their story as well, because sometimes they do have a story that's similar and yet not as similar. And so we're learning from them as well, right? Because it's always a learning experience.
yes, it's so great to just like keep that curiosity open and be open to learning from and about other people and bring that in, and it widens our view as well and helps us learn more about the world. And I just love it.
Yeah. And so I had to switch my, thinking, because it really, I did notice that it was the world at our fingertips and how wonderful it's become. And so that's why when I heard nurse coach, I'm like, I have to find out exactly what that is about and how does that work? Because I am sure that there are people on the planet that haven't heard about that. And I mean, I'm sure they know what a nurse is, or they have an idea of what a nurse is, but how exactly it's interwoven together and how it can best serve them. Because after all, that's really the nature of what we're doing here, right? Serving
Yes,
each other.
that is my mission. I want to serve women, and I want to help women get healthier, get more joy into their lives. We are so good at giving and giving and giving. We're not always good at taking care of ourselves. And I want to help women learn that it's not only okay to take care of yourself, it's imperative to take care of yourself. Because if you don't, then pretty soon you're just an empty vessel that can't give anymore. So it's really a gift to the rest of your family and society if you take good care of yourself.
Yes. And yes, and take care of the whole you. I mean, the type the type of, I guess, job that I've been doing for a long time is a little bit different. Sometimes there are women who come, there's a lot of trauma. And I remember, and it wasn't that long ago, I had a client, I will never forget this. And again, I say I've been doing this a long time. It was a woman, and there was an incident, and um, it caused trauma for her. And when we were chatting, she said to me, I never thought I could say no. And I just froze and I was in shock. And I'm like, what do you mean you never thought you could say no? Of course you could say no. You're in charge of yourself. What do you mean you can say no? And then it dawned on me how many women have felt that way. It's imperative that we're all out there speaking about the wholeness that we can be, because so many women are in that situation. That's why I applaud you for what you're doing, because it's true that the, I guess, the giving and the giving and the depletion, and it doesn't have to be trauma either. I mean, I just happened to have that instance with a client that it was a traumatic experience that happened to her, and we were talking about that, but it's just the giving, and it's the, as I said, the depleting of oneself. So working towards making ourselves whole, because right, in loving ourselves and making ourselves whole, then we can give to everybody else. And I think
If we
it's
can
so
learn to
important.
give from our overflow and not giving out of, to where we're being depleted, that is the best gift we can give to anybody, including ourselves. And that's how we can have like the most joyous life. And when you're joy and you're lit up, that just makes the world, we're raising the vibration of the whole world. And that's just the best gift we can give.
Now, do you work with men at all?
Not at this time, but I'm not opposed. I just feel like women have been coming from the medical field. I can speak to, they've been ignored and they get dismissed. And I want to spend some time focusing and really giving them a voice to be heard. So.
I'm glad to hear you say that often they are dismissed because you're in that field. And so you can see that. I mean, I myself have seen it through years that they often are dismissed. Their viewpoint is not taken serious.
Yeah, both
and that's problematic.
Yes, it is a problem. It's a big problem, and one that has bothered me. And I want to help. I want to give women a voice and allow them to where they feel like they can speak up and they feel like they can take their place.
Yeah,
it's important.
I have to say, even though, I mean, I do work with women, but I do have a lot of men too. I do have a lot of men that come to me, and I work with them as well. So I try to work with everyone with whatever their issues or what they're seeking to change or to grow into. I'll work with everyone, but I do value what you're saying, because it is true that there are women who have not been taken serious in a lot of different ways. So
yes. No, I mean, men need help and men need to have people work with them. So I think that's wonderful.
Yes.
That's just, for me right now, this is where I feel called. And so this is what I'm focusing on. So
now, do you still do nursing, traditional nursing?
So I still work part-time in the hospital. I work in the OR as a first assist. So I work at the table assisting the surgeon. So that's what I do part-time, and then I do the coaching part-time. So what I do hope
how do you put the two
transition
together?
all the way up.
Yeah. Oh, to transition all the way up. But how do you put the two together now? Is it very different? Is it very different? I ask from another profession because, traditionally what I did was also one way and a traditional way, and it had and to some degree it still has to be.
I've been able to bring some of my coaching skills to like my fellow colleagues, which has been really helpful and nice. And then like sometimes our patients are awake, and that's not the norm, but like certain brain surgeries, they have to be awake.
Yes.
And so I've been able to be with them and help talk them through it. And that has been really helpful and rewarding. So
that must be so comforting, right? Yeah, such a wonderful way to do things.
Yes. Yes. So that has been really rewarding to have these new skills to bring to that. So
it's wonderful that they allow you to do that.
My nursing. Excuse me?
It's wonderful that they allow you to do that. That you're in an environment that allows you to do that. Because oftentimes
they've been really open and wonderful. So
right, because sometimes there are environments that have not gotten to that point yet. And it can be a little difficult. But I mean, how wonderful when you're really thinking about it, you're really concerning yourself with the patient, the client, because especially one that's semi-awake during a procedure, that's wonderful that you're able to offer that to them, uninhibited, offer that service to them. Are you in the United States?
I am. I'm in Illinois.
Oh, in Illinois. Okay. So yeah, because I like to ask sometimes because some areas have a more advanced way or perhaps a different way of looking at things. That's why I wanted to know where you were located. That's true. But I find that fantastic that you can do that. And where do you see yourself going from here? Because you say you want to transition ultimately at some point to do more, what would we say, private work, more private work. Where do you see yourself going into that realm?
To have more groups, and then I would actually like to start running retreats. So I'd like to start bringing women together and doing more like in-person retreats with women, because I know that the retreats that I've gone to have just been so transformative, just having that just real community with women has
Yes.
been amazing. So,
Yes, I have to ditto that. I've gone to a number of them, and I've worked at a number of them, and those intimate containers can be so strong
yes,
for all of us, right? And again, as we said earlier, we too are learning while we're there. We're learning from
yes,
others, and I always find that really rewarding and really important, so that I could also take with me to the next job that I'm doing, take with me to the next client to make sure that I have everything that my all that I can give to them. I'm sure you feel the same way. Well, sure, because, if you're in the operating room and you're already assisting them in that respect, how much are you bringing to the table? And now, I know that you're a Reiki practitioner. Do you add that in? Like, do you do energy work with your nurse coaching, or is that something completely different?
I do. I try to bring everything to the table. So if you're in a container with me, you're going to get whatever you need. So it's very customized to what the client needs. So if
Yeah,
you
I'm
need
finding that
that,
we're all
we're going
going
to do
that
that.
way, right? We're all
Yes.
going that way. We're cut right because before it was just, and no offense, to any, I don't have it, believe me, I don't have anything against Western medicine, and I think that some of the diagnostics is top notch and needed, but there was a time, right, that it was only this way. That's all you could do. A, B, C, and D. That was it. And now we're looking more at the individual, right? The
Mm-hmm.
clients. They're the center of everything. And like you said, it's not one size fits all. It's whatever works for them, the best for them, because it's all about them, right? And I find that
Yes.
much, it's so much more that we can give them when we look at it from that perspective.
And it's very much like what we're making this container with them for them because
Mhm.
they need to be an active participant. And I think that is missing from Western medicine a lot because they are not an active participant. They're being
No.
told this is what's going to happen, when, how, and why, and
Hmm.
no input from you, please. So, and I think that
Hmm.
that's a big issue with it. So,
Yes, that is true. It is true. I often say process, in often respects, process like cattle, sadly. And you just go
yes,
from one to another and kind of pushed along. And especially when you're in a position where you're frightened, fearful of the unknown, and you're looking for answers, but you're not getting them. It's quite frightening. And I do like that idea that we're moving towards working with the whole person and that they're included in this
yes.
arrangement, right, in this activity for the betterment of not only us as practitioners, but for their lives, because it's so important.
Well, I think what you just brought up is so important, that fear aspect, because when someone's afraid, when that is heightened in them, they can't take information in, they can't learn, they can't really make changes. So if we can work with them and get their nervous system in a more relaxed state, then they can actually learn and process and make changes. Otherwise, they're in that fight or flight and they can't even make changes to begin with. So we're asking them to learn all this information, take information in, and they physiologically they can't. And
They
it's
don't even
just
hear,
not
right? They hear
right.
nothing,
Like
right?
they can't do it. And
Mhm.
then people get upset. Well, they're not being compliant. Well, they never heard you to begin with. So they don't
Mhm.
even know
Yes,
what they're
exactly.
supposed to be doing. So it's
Exactly,
just
that's true.
it's we need to be better about educating people in a way that can actually reach them. And that's where I
So
think
true.
coaches can be so helpful.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I mean, and coaches have coaches, right? I mean, there's always
oh, I
something
have
more that you
coaches.
could, right? I mean, we all do, right? I mean, there's always something more you could hear, another way of looking at things. Hear different people's kinds of training, especially we as practitioners, especially different kinds of training, because we would like to make sure that we have all the tools available to us for our clients. So why would
Exactly.
we not want to continue on, and learn and grow as well? That's
Yeah.
just how it is.
I don't ever want to stop learning. If I can get better
It's
and
true.
bring more, right? Like I want to, that's what I want to do. So,
Yeah, that's true. And so now, how can people get a hold of you? Like, do you have a website? I know you mentioned groups. You have groups. Do you have like social media? I know some people have groups on social media, and then they advise what they're doing? What is it? How is it that people can get a hold of you?
I have a website, kimdunakeycoaching.com. And then I also have a Facebook group. It's the Divine Joy Embodiment Collective
Oh,
on
lovely.
Facebook.
I will definitely list everything for everyone. I like to put it in the description so that people can go and look for themselves and see what's going on, and make contact with a lot of the guests that come on. So I will definitely have all that listed there.
I appreciate that.
And
Yes.
yeah, you're quite welcome. And then where do you see yourself going? Because you are young. Where are you going with this? I mean, you're at the cutting edge now of the AI and, everything that's going on now. Where do you see yourself going with your practice and with helping your clients?
I want to continue to help women get more in touch with themselves. I want to grow my one-on-ones. I want to grow my group and start the retreats. So that's where, and then I've been told I need to start writing a book. So I will probably write a book. So we'll get there, but I've got the outline. So I just got to get busy working on it. So
yeah, so you're busy too.
yes.
And
but
tell me a little bit about the retreats. Do you have a plan of when you're starting those?
I'm looking probably either this fall or next spring, but just kind of bring women together that have probably gone through the group. It's called Awaken the Feminine Within, and bring them together and go through some of the archetype practices together in person, and kind of help bring all that work that we've kind of done together online, but bring it together in person and kind of meet, because they're intimate groups. It's more than 10 per group cohort. And so kind of bring them together and I think it's great when you've met people online, but then when you come together, it's amazing.
Yes, so. Yes. Right. When you further that connection, it's true. And where can people find out about that program? Is that through your Facebook page or is that on your website? The program that
That's
you're
on my
speaking
website.
About? It's on my website. Okay, because
yes.
It sounds so interesting. It sounds very interesting, especially about the archetypes.
Yes. So we go each week, we go through, it's an 8-week program, and we go through the different archetypes, and we have a closing ceremony. And it's been really amazing to watch these women just kind of learn more about themselves, learn more about, and just become more embodied. And it's been a really rewarding for me. And I learn from them, they learn from me. It's been wonderful. So
it sounds wonderful. And that's like a fabulous thing to offer women out there, especially working with archetypes. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, because you have had these groups now. And so I'm assuming that when you run the retreats, you'll have to have the different groups at the different retreats, because you couldn't necessarily put them together. That'll be interesting to see, because you're absolutely right. It's a close knit, because you have been online, and it's already been close knit. And so now once you get together, it brings it even more, it melds it even better together, right? Because now you're kind of reiterating what you did online. So it'll be interesting to hear.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think
I'll have to keep in touch and see how it goes.
For the future and to see how it all comes together. So it'll be good. I'm excited to watch it grow.
And you said your program's 8 weeks. This particular one is 8 weeks with the
yes. And I love the archetype framework. I think there's so much we can learn, and it doesn't. And I think as I continue to grow my concepts, there'll be different groups that we'll do, but for now I have the 8-week one, but because there's so much richness to the archetypes. So
yes, I would assume, yes. And you can go very deep into it.
Yes. So I'm excited, but it's been interesting because so many people think, oh, it's not about like breaking things apart. It's about bringing things together, learning to take off all of the masks that we put on to be palatable to society, and just really integrate who we are and be our true selves. So.
Wow. It's very powerful. Very powerful.
Wonderful work. So, and it was really, I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, And seeing her be born and watching her as she was just a little thing, seeing that spark and that wildness in her and not ever wanting her to lose that is
Yeah.
what really inspired me to like dive deeper into it. Because I don't want her to ever lose it, but I wanted it back for me.
Mhm.
And so that's why I dove a little deeper into my transformation. So that's
Oh,
what
how
inspired
wonderful.
that work. So,
Imagine the generations of women now to come that will have the capability of keeping that, that wildness, that original, I guess, inquisitiveness with them, because hopefully, like, as we evolve with these programs, to offer that
mhm.
to them, so that they're not in the same situation that many of us
Right.
have had been in.
Hopefully they don't have to put on so many they don't have to put it on to begin with. So I told my daughter, like, I want her to stay wild. My little wildling is what I call her. So I
Mhm.
just want her to stay that way. So it's
That's a
the,
lovely thought. Yes.
yes. So
But I
that's,
want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I mean, I
oh, thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having
I'm
me.
I'm happy that we just touched the surface about this because these are topics that can get very in depth. That's
Yes.
why we have these containers, right? That we do
Yes.
these programs and we offer these secure containers because I guess a lot of people are afraid, right? Especially women, they're fearful. I know often I've heard that from clients, like they'll come one on one, but sometimes in a group they're a little bit more reserved. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're a little fearful because, as we said before, many people have been broken of their wildness. So they're
Yes.
fearful to lift off the masks and often speak, right? They don't want to really speak truthfully. So that's
Yes.
why these types of containers are fabulous,
And that's why I like to keep them small so that people feel safe and secure to do that.
right? Because then they can speak, right? Speak
Mm-hmm.
their truth.
Yes. Yes. Truly be themselves and let it out. So,
Well, Kim, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. It was wonderful. I definitely am going to have to find out about that archetype group, and I'd love to hear about the retreats. Um,
all right.
we will keep the audience abreast of what's going on.
I
Oftentimes,
appreciate
people will ask me, you had you had a guest speaker on. They mentioned such and such. So some people they don't know where to look, right? So, but they've heard it. They possibly heard it. So definitely, I will keep in touch, and we will let them know. Um,
All right. I
where
appreciate
everything is
that.
going. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you again for coming. It was wonderful.
You wonderful. Yes. I enjoyed our conversation very much. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye
All right. You
now.
as well. Bye.